This is Education Without Borders. We want to talk about a building, what makes a building a success story, and what differentiates this building from a white elephant. A building, just like the human body, which has a body, a human being has a spirit, has a soul. I would compare the body itself as the physical body as a hardware. The soul and the spirit, I would compare them to both the software and hardware. So I have three things I want to talk about here. The hardware, I want to talk about the software, I also want to talk about hardware. We are all familiar with both hardware and software because in this era of digital era, we know, for example, hardware, we associate hardware with a computer, and software we associate with the system that makes the computer run. But we've not heard about hardware, which I'm introducing here. Hardware has something to do with the human, the feeling, the love, the empathy, the care. You know, all those positive attributes in a human being, I'm calling hardware. So a building should have hardware, software, and if business of that building has to progress or to take a positive trajectory, then you must add hardware. Let me give examples of a building like a school building. A school building, a classroom, for example, the desks, the blackboards, the chalk, everything, the building itself is the hardware. But what is the software then in a school building? The software is the curriculum itself, which has been approved by the regulator or the ministry. They are the trained teachers who go for, they go for refresher courses. And it's the management, head teacher, the management, the workers, administrative workers, technical support, the subordinate staff, even cashiers. All those are what I'm referring to as software. And you agree with me, if you have a building without all these other components, then that building does not serve any use whatsoever. And it's what I'm calling a white elephant. And many developers usually spend a lot of money, they inject a lot of capital. Many buildings in today's world cost a lot of money, and there's no developer who would pump so much money without expecting return on their investment. And for this to happen, then it's very important to pay special attention to the need of having in place the software and the hardware as well. So I've given an example of a school. Let me give an example of a hospital. A hospital building, the physical building, the hospital beds, the equipment, x-rays, the lighting, the oxygen cylinders, and all that infrastructure is the hardware. But you agree with me, if you have that hardware without doctors, without nurses, without support staff, without the trained technologies to even operate the equipment, then that hospital serves no purpose whatsoever. Therefore, the software in this day and age, software has to be deliberately put in place. It's not automatic. The owner or the proprietor has to deliberately, consciously put the software in place and move a step further and then put the hardware in place, whereby the hardware is trained staff who have feelings, who have the love, for example, for the patients. They have empathy, they care, they are repeat customers because of how people are treated with a lot of dignity, and love and care. That is the heart care. You agree with me that there's a difference between a software and the hardware. Software is the people themselves. They could have very beautiful CVs. They could be highly qualified. But if they are very rough, you agree with me, there is software, but there lacks hardware. So in this lesson, we are encouraging developers to pay special attention to not just the hardware bit of it, but to both software and hardware. And I believe if you add these three, hardware plus software plus hardware, then what you end up with is a success story. But if you have hardware minus software, and of course the software, if it's not there, then because there are no human beings to manage the process, then there is again no hardware. There ends a disaster, and that is what is referred to as a white elephant. I would want to give another example of a hardware. I would give an example of a commercial building. A commercial building also, we have very many of them. It could be residential, it could be office, it could even be a car park. That's a commercial building. And a commercial building, the building itself is the hardware. But without those tenants, the tenants are the caretakers, the management, and all the systems, cleaners, the systems in place. That is the software. Then I would also want to add that even there, we need the hardware. You need to take care of the customer so that they don't move to the next building. After all, they are spoiled for choice. Therefore, I hope that in this lesson, we have been drawn our attention to the need to not only invest our capital in hardware and just leave it and expect that things will happen. In this day and age, you must pay attention to the software and the hardware as well to avoid running your hard-earned investment into a white elephant. Let's continue talking about hardware and software. I want to give an example of a tertiary education building. A tertiary education building, for example, a university building, it could be lecture theater, it could be classrooms, could be a library. So the hardware, in this case then, is that building. And the software are the curriculum, are the staff trained enough. We have equipment in that uh, building. Do we have some staff who are trained to be able to, for example, undertake research? That's part of the software. Another type of software is, do you have what it takes to be able to benchmark with the similar institutions? You must have processes that help you to benchmark so that you are not rendered obsolete. Number three or number four, do you have students? Are you able to attract students? Do you have the governance structure in place? All these are part of the software. And again, I just wanted to give that example. I can give an example of any other, think of any other building that is put up by a developer for purposes of undertaking a specific business. And if you look closely, you'll find the successful businesses, not only do they have good infrastructure, they also have good software or systems. And the ones which go even to the next level have what I'm calling hardware. They are people-centered, customer is the boss, and they are able to retain the customer. Customer retention is a very good sign of having a healthy hardware. Let us all have hardware and software, because hardware minus these two is equal to a white elephant. A very sorry state to be in, and I would not wish it for anybody to invest so much capital and end up with a white elephant. Thank you very much. This is Education Without Borders. Keep watching, keep learning. We shall be back.